turned into minutes, wasted time instead of living. Please don't stand in my way. I am running out of nowhere. Yes, I'm moving on, I'll lose the race if I wait. I'm so close that I can taste it. Yes, I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Whoa, I'm running, this time I'm gonna make it. Whoa, I'm running, this time. The hardest part of all is knowing how to catch my breath. I'm scared to risk it all, take a chance, close my eyes and try again. But seconds turned into minutes, wasted time instead of living. Please don't stand in my way. I am running out of nowhere. Yes, I'm moving on, I'm moving on. I'll lose the race if I wait. I'm so close that I can taste it. Yes, I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Whoa, I'm running, this time I'm gonna make it. Whoa, I'm running, this time. Whoa, I'm running, this time I'm gonna make it. Whoa, I'm running, this time. This time I'm gonna make it. I'm not the same kid I used to be. Oh, this time I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna chase it from here. 'Cause seconds turned into minutes, wasted time instead of living. Please don't stand in my way. I am running out of nowhere. Yes, I'm moving on, I'll lose the race if I wait. I'm so close that I can taste it. Yes, I'm moving on, I'm moving on. Whoa, I'm running, this time I'm gonna make it. Whoa, I'm running, this time. Whoa, I'm running, this time I'm gonna make it. Whoa, I'm running, this time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2022 No Barriers Summit. It is so exciting to see this room full of people right now. Let's get one more round of applause for Mandy. Cool. So there are a ton of familiar faces in the room, a lot of new faces. For those of you guys that don't know me, my name is Nate, and I had worked for No Barriers for many, many years, primarily with our Warriors program. A couple of Warriors back there. Give a little hoot and holler, you guys. Nice. So we have a pretty phenomenal 3 days ahead of us after today. So 4 total days of awesome fun, good times. You guys are going to have the opportunity to do some fencing, some rock climbing, some Zumba. Can anybody I don't know what Zumba is. Can anybody demonstrate what a Zumba is? Flying kites, or you guys can also come try some archery with me and my team from Challenge Aspen. So please come out and shoot some arrows with us. We're also going to have some awesome movies, some music, and some great stories from some phenomenal people, some of them that are in this room right now hanging out. So I recommend that you guys shake hands if that fits within your post-COVID policy. Get to know people around you, introduce yourself to everybody, and you never know who you'll see standing on stage telling their story. No matter what you guys choose to do this weekend, you will leave here being introduced to some awesome new activities. You'll leave here with a new mindset and hopefully a drive to combine both of those things when you get back home. So, No Barriers, obviously, after working here for a long time, this organization means a ton to me. The impact that it has is immeasurable. I'm sure, again, talk to somebody, one of the folks that has the red, white, and blue Warriors hats on, ask them what No Barriers means to them. Any of our people out here, if you've been in a No Barriers program, raise your hand. So look around the room, and yeah, a lot of folks that have been impacted in here, and we'll meet more and more and more. So what makes No Barriers so special? It's a combination of two things, really. So the first thing is that we provide amazing experiences, typically focused around outdoor recreation or adventure sports, really getting people out traveling, playing, trying new things, getting out of their comfort zones, and meeting, again, new and awesome people to enjoy these things with. And then the secret sauce on top of that, because let's face it, there are a lot of organizations out there that provide cool, unique, interesting experiences in beautiful places. But not all of them, or any other ones, at least that I've run across, have the secret sauce that is the No Barriers life elements. So again, raise your hand if you know what the life elements are. How many people out here? Cool. And I would like to see just one more hand raise if after you learned the No Barriers life elements, you found yourself applying them to your life. Very cool. So there are 7 of these No Barriers life elements, and you'll see them plastered all over. Oh, right there they are. They're on prayer flags all over the place. They're going to be in your brochures. You'll see them all over the place, on T-shirts, on stickers, everything. And they are a calculated recipe for overcoming adversity. The first life element is vision. Vision is identifying your goal or your barrier that you want to overcome. It's goal setting. It's figuring out what you want to do or who you want to be. The second life element is reach. Reach is the first step in attaining that vision. It's when things become tangible, when it becomes more than just a thought or a dream, when you take that first step toward making your vision a reality. The third, rope team. Rope team, it's a mountaineering term, if any of you guys are mountaineers. When you're climbing a glaciated peak with crevasses and icefall, you literally tie yourself to people that you trust with your life, that you trust with your well-being, and that also expect the same from you. So if one person falls, the rest of the team jams their ice axes in the ground and stops them from sliding into oblivion. So none of this stuff can be done alone. That's the point of a rope team. The next element would be pioneer. So pioneer, much like when you think of the word pioneer, at least I think of the settlers going across the American West where we are right now. And that journey would not be easy. And they had to think of some pretty clever ways to overcome the obstacles that were placed in front of them. The fifth element is alchemy. Alchemy, you guys have probably heard that word before. If you haven't, and if you don't know the definition of it, it's the ancient practice, well, practice is definitely the right word for it, the attempt to turn lead into gold. It's finding the silver lining of your dark clouds, because all of these journeys have dark clouds, no doubt about it, and finding a way to channel the good, those little nuggets of pleasantry out of the bad things to help you push on in your journey. The next element is summits. Just like in mountain climbing, summits are the top, summits are the goal. That's what we're looking for. And it is very intentionally a plural word. So summits with an S on the end, because life is not one summit. The No Barriers life is not one goal and then being done. It's this process, repeated over and over and over again. It's always important to celebrate your summits too. So don't overlook those. Very fast-paced life we live, so celebrate your summits when they occur. And the final life element is elevate. Elevate is taking all of these other life elements, this experience you've had of overcoming your adversity, of meeting your goal, and applying that to your friends, to your family, to your community, to help them overcome their challenges and barriers as well. You guys will learn a lot more about these life elements as the week progresses, and I would encourage you to not glaze over them. Really listen to people when they talk about it, and think introspectively on how these elements apply to your life right now, and potential goals. Our first speaker tonight is someone who knows about life's struggles. Billy Lister was diagnosed with an AVM in his brain when he was 15 years old. An AVM is a tangle of abnormally formed arteries and veins which have a high chance of bleeding. An invasive surgery at age 16 was successful in curing his AVM. However, post-surgery complications caused his brain to swell, and he began to experience a gradual stroke, which led to him losing the ability of his left side. As someone who played sports his whole life, this transition was difficult. Billy's story is one of passion and positivity, and he is here to teach us how to reach. I'd like to introduce you guys to Paralympian Billy Lister.
Stand up, bud. Let's give another round of applause to Nate, one of our fantastic Master of Ceremonies. Keep down. Hello, everyone. I'm Billy. As some of you have come to learn about me, I'm not an impartial gentleman. My world is always perfect. My world always wins. So, I ask, no barriers, is that if I was allowed to stand up here on the shoulders of the giants to come this weekend to kick off our 2022 No Barrier Summit by saying it is going to be the most magical summit in the existence of No Barriers. And when I say this with certainty. Armed with the elements of No Barriers, and without a humble bone in my body, I'm going to brag about how our No Barriers mindset made me reach for who I am at the exact same moment in time that we currently find ourselves gathered together at a No Barriers Summit opening night. The story of how No Barriers turned my vision from complete darkness to blinding light starts when I heard a faint whisper about an event that was being held in Florida. It was the No Barriers Summit at Shake a Leg. The faint whisper was hard for me to hear at the time, yet I followed the call and I flew to Miami. This is an image that is seared into my memory. It's from the opening night of my first No Barriers Summit. I can almost see it as if it was yesterday. I had arrived early and chose a seat in the very far corner of the last row of the audience. Now, please, I want you to remember that detail of the story, almost to the minute, until the very moment I was at my first No Barrier Summit, hiding from the world was where I felt most comfortable. People on stage began to describe the days to come with experiences like sailing, scuba diving, kayaking, and well, of course, a traveling rock wall. sitting in that back row of the opening ceremony of a No Barrier Summit, I looked to the person to my left and said, "Hey, is this stuff for real?" And then turned to the person to my right and said, "Hey, have things like this always existed?" In the most benign, simple, and unexpected way, that point in time, when I was introduced to a life with no barriers, was when everything changed. I had no idea back then, because I couldn't even conceive of the concepts. But who I was, what I stood for, and most importantly, how I saw the world was transformed. My molecular structure, my actual DNA, would be forever altered. After that summit, I returned to my life in New York City. I was riding the post-summit high that we're all going to experience after this weekend. But what I did not yet realize was that a tiny snowflake inside of me had just been pushed off the highest mountain, growing in strength and speed as gravity propelled its way to the surface floor. As if this was depicted by a cartoon, it was a snowball merrily rolling downhill, and of course, there was a snow dog watching in the background. I'm going to tell you another little story about this snowflake. A snowflake that was born on the first night of a No Barrier Summit at an opening ceremony. This is the snowflake that led me 2 years later, in 2011, to get on a bicycle for the first time since my disability. It's the snowflake that led me to enter a Paralympic cycling race and to then move to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, finding the courage to risk everything to reach for a dream. It's the snowflake that drove me to win Paralympic trials for the 2016 Rio de Janeiro Paralympic Games, automatically qualifying to represent Team USA at the Rio Paralympics. That tiny snowflake, which was created by the No Barriers mindset at a No Barriers Summit in all its innocence, started an avalanche, catapulting me from complete sedentary paralysis to the pinnacle of athletic achievement in less than 5 years. Now, just for a second, I want you all to consider what I just said, because I know many of the thoughts you're all thinking. You're thinking, this is so cool. This is larger than life. But that could never be me. I'm not strong. I'm not talented. I'm not driven and determined. I've been doing these summits for too long. I'm too old. I've never been to a summit before. I'm too young. I'm too disabled. I'm not disabled enough. Take this moral from the story I'm telling you. I've sat in the identical seat you're all in right now. I once held no hope, no ambition, no expertise. My life, prior to No Barriers, was simply surviving life, not living it. A No Barriers Summit and the adoption of the No Barriers elements created this life I've reached for ever since. It may be comical, but it is completely factual to say that No Barriers creates United States Paralympians. When you don't know your limitations, everything in the world can be a surprise to you. My immersion into this summit is eternal. The impact that this, our No Barriers family, has together is without rival. We are Tiger Woods on the 18th hole of the Masters. We're Michael Jordan with the ball down by one, only 10 seconds left to play. We're Thomas Edison on the 1,000th attempt to invent the light bulb. We're David looking up at Goliath, the one and only time it mattered. We're Elvis Presley returning to Graceland. We are Charles Darwin's natural selection in evolutionary progress. All of these are immortal outcomes in history. Well, you know what? I am personally anointing the 2022 No Barriers Summit, metaphorically having just entered these halls. Did you guys know that the idea that lightning never strikes twice is just a myth? Lightning can strike the same location many times. And also, did you know that there are two types of lightning? Negative strikes and positive strikes. Positive strikes are 10 times more powerful than negative strikes and can last 10 times longer. Keep that in mind as you walk and roll out of here tonight. Positive energy lightning bolts are 10 times stronger and can last 10 times longer. No Barriers controls all of our paces. After a summit, for some, life will get slower. For others, it gets faster. Slowing things down to savor every minute, or speeding up to never look back again. It is the life we lead as participants of a No Barrier Summit. For me, I wouldn't have it any other way for the rest of my days. This is the feeling of together that only a No Barrier Summit sparks. There are certain moments in your life when you suddenly understand something about yourself. Everyone, let this summit be one of those moments. Thank you very much. Gabe, let's go.
Thanks, Billy.
Come on.
So this is a great prompt, you guys. If you haven't thought about that vision piece that we talked about, start thinking Paralympian thoughts. So not too big of a vision to achieve. So our next speaker that's coming to the stage was in a vehicle accident at the age of 24, which left him a paraplegic. Sam Morris, he knew there were two options. He knew option one was that he would let this situation control his life. And option two was to find a way to control the situation. Sam leaned into the Zen teachings, some breath work, and he created Zen Warrior Training, which I think he's going to talk to you a little bit about right now. So I would love to welcome you guys, Mr. Sam Morris, the Zen Warrior.
Hello, hello. Thanks, Nate. Welcome to No Barriers, everybody. It's so great to see you. I believe this is my 5th No Barriers. I lose track, but it is so great to be back. The first time I came to No Barriers, I was just thought, this is the most concentrated form of inspiration imaginable. Like, raise your hand if this is your first No Barriers. Oh, yeah, you're in for a treat. Right on. These 3 days are going to be extraordinary for you. I never felt something quite like what I felt when I came to Copper Mountain several years ago and felt No Barriers for the first time. It was like I was home. It was like everything that I ever felt about myself and my own strength to be able to tackle adversity suddenly had a home amongst peers. And it just felt awesome. And I hope you have that same experience over these next few days. I want to take you back to 1999. I led a cycling trek for 9 teenagers across the United States. We camped every night, we cooked all our own meals, and we cycled 3,800 miles in a little less than 2 months. And at that time I thought, oh my God, how could anything in the rest of my life possibly be as challenging as what I have just endured leading a cycling trek across the United States? Well, it was like I must have planted a little seed with the universe, because only 2.5 months later, I was riding in the back seat of a car. The driver had been drinking. He spun off a gravel road. He hit a tree, and I broke my T12 vertebra, and I became a complete paraplegic at the time. And this was November 9th of 1999. And it's so amazing looking back. Since then, I have spent over 2 years completely immobilized in hospitals from pressure ulcers. I've broken 3 femurs. I've broken, a tibia or something like that. I've had my fair share of stuff happen. I was just bedridden 77 days last fall, actually, and with a broken femur and a massive infection. But it's almost getting to the point where it's kind of comical, this whole adversity thing. Because I have realized, does anyone feel that way? It's like, really, it's so funny because people are like sitting in traffic and are like getting in little arguments in their lives, and it's like, oh really, that's adversity? It gets comical after a while, and I just realized, just like I think all of you have, that it's all perspective. It's always just perspective. 10 years ago, I guess it was, I was in a transitional phase in my life. By the way, I have no idea what I'm about to talk to you guys about. I just came up here, I'm like, 15 minutes to talk? I'm like, cool, all right, great. I'll just speak from the heart about my experience with No Barriers and what I'm doing. So about 10 years ago, I was in a turning point in my life. I was looking at what I wanted to do. I had a cool job working for Russell Brand on his TV show in Hollywood, and that stopped because his show got canceled, and I'm thinking, what do I want to do? I want to do something really meaningful in my life. I want to do something that has a lot of purpose to it. And I just couldn't put my finger on exactly what that was. I mean, I'd been, over the course of the years between 1999 and 2012, 2014, I spent so much time in and out of hospitals. I had this kind of shoddy resume. And I was talking to a life coach that I worked with, and she said, you might not have that great a resume on paper. She said, but you have an extraordinary experiential resume. She says, you have one of the best attitudes of anyone that I've ever met, and that goes a long way. What do people need more than attitude? I thought, interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Around the same time, a friend of mine said, she was a psychiatrist, and she said, you'd be great working with people with spinal cord injuries to help them integrate after their injury and develop, really evolve into the next stage of their life because you do so well handling your situation. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Yeah, it's a good point. So I created these flyers, and I was going to do this spinal cord injury integration training. And I had a couple of clients and did some workshops in California where I live. And on my drive home from San Diego one day, I was still living in Hollywood. On my drive home from San Diego, I got thinking, I feel like there's a little tweak here that I need to make in what I'm doing. Because it's not about spinal cord injury. And what I realized was this. It wasn't paralysis. It wasn't overcoming physical paralysis that was my specialty. It was overcoming mental paralysis, emotional paralysis. And I realized at that time, this is just an inconvenience. This just means I can't walk up and down stairs. This just means I have to adapt my life. This is the only thing that can paralyze me. It's right between my ears. And so I got thinking, what would I call this? Thought, what am I trying to really convey? What am I helping people to discover about themselves? And it was at that point that this term Zen warrior came through. It's not the type of warrior who goes out onto a battlefield. It's the type of warrior who lives from a place of love and commitment and connection and desire to make the world a better place. And to do so from a place of Zen. Zen meaning that space of peaceful stillness that we all have access to if we just practice it. And so I put together this system, called it Zen Warrior Training. And I began to really look at not only my own life and everything that I learned in my own experience, but also the ancient wisdom traditions and what pop psychology had to say about living an empowered life. And I created this system. This system was based on presence and responsibility and perseverance and treating life as an adventure and being authentic and surrendering your expectations, letting go and just being in the moment and then serving the greater good. And a few years later, I was invited to my first No Barriers. And I took a look at the life principles and I went, this is almost exactly to the T what I'm doing with my work. And I realized, you know what? There's a reason why. Because these life principles are universal. This is wisdom. What we're doing here is we are working on embodying wisdom. We're working on the most empowering principles known to human beings. And lately, I've been evolving this. And by the way, ever since then, it's just been awesome. Coming to No Barriers is just one aspect of a career that has been incredible for me. And now I get to work with some of the highest performing entrepreneurs and executives in the world and helping them overcome their own paralysis. You know, it's funny, it's actually ironic that this group here is here at No Barriers when it really should be the rest of the world who is at No Barriers, because we are used to breaking barriers. We are used to going beyond limits. So recently I've realized I've coined this new term that I've been using with my practice. I call it soul performance. And this is different from the type of performance that you might hear other coaches and mentors talking about, because they're frequently focused on things like productivity, accomplishment, efficiency, those sorts of things. All awesome things to focus on. But they leave something out. They leave out the soul. And that is what each one of us uniquely has to bring to the world, is the experience of our unique soul, our individual blueprint, what makes us us. Getting that every experience that you've ever been through has been grist for the mill for turning you into an incredibly empowered person. And that there are no limits to how powerful you can become if you choose that perspective. Now, that is a perspective that has to be chosen. It's not something that someone can just tell you to do. You have to make a conscious choice, and you have to keep doing it every day, every moment of every day, choosing to have that perspective. And the more I choose to have that perspective in my own life, the more my entire reality changes. When my injury first happened, and I was a 24-year-old athlete who had just cycled across the US, snowboarder, skier, active, extreme sports athlete, it was tragic. It was totally tragic. And then as time went on, tragedy became futility. Then it was just futile. Didn't really have any meaning whatsoever. The tragedy kind of sort of died out, and it was sort of replaced with futility. But now, it's beautiful. It's extraordinary. I'm having impact on the world that I never imagined that I would have, but it's because I'm leaning into it. I'm going, yeah, bring it on. This is awesome. The adversity is awesome. It's catalyzing something great. And what does the world need more than people who can help them with adversity right now? That's the thing that's not going to be replaced by machines. And that is what each one of us brings to the table. So really cheer yourself on, because we're all doing this together. This is not just me, this is you. You are showing the world what you're made of. And you are inspiring people. You are lighting people up. And that has extraordinary value. So I'm going to be expanding on this during my Soul Performance workshop on Saturday. And then tomorrow, we're going to be doing a breathwork workshop, which is all about flushing out that history from your body and optimizing your energy so you can really stand in your power no matter what situation you're in. So I hope you come to those workshops. I'd love to see you there. How much more time do I have? Got a couple minutes? A couple minutes. All right, cool. Well, I will close with this. In addition to being here, being a No Barriers ambassador, which there's no greater honor than being a No Barriers ambassador. In addition to being here, in addition to doing the coaching work that I'm doing, I'm also working on developing a TV series along with my friend Sean here, who you'll hopefully meet. And this is going to be a No Barriers related. We can't really divulge the full content because it's in pre-production right now. But it's going to be a No Barriers themed TV series, and we're calling it Beyond Limits. And I'm going to invite you, as you are stretching in your life, you're going beyond your own limits, to do a hashtag on social media, Beyond Limits, because we really want to bring a grassroots movement to this. And by the time this TV series hits the ground, we want to hit the ground running. So in addition to Summit with Us or whatever all the hashtags for No Barriers are, please also include Beyond Limits as a hashtag on your social media posts when you're pushing yourself to your next level. And I really hope to meet you over the course of this weekend. You're all so freaking beautiful, and I can't wait to get to know you. Thank you. Happy to be here. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, Sam. Guys, if you have the opportunity, please try and sit in on one of Sam's Zen Warrior sessions. It is phenomenal. I've done a few myself. I've only fallen asleep through 2 of them, which is a good thing because it really does put you in just a perfect mental state. So, our next speaker. So we have another phenomenal guest coming up, and it'd be an injustice for me to introduce him. His resume is impressive, so let him do that himself. Please welcome Vasu Sojitra.
All right, sweet. That works. Yeah. Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Vasu Sojitra, and I am a professional athlete. I'm a pro skier by trade. Some of my major sponsors are North Face, it's a big one, if some of you have heard of that brand. And then Subaru, REI are some of the other major ones that I work with very closely. If we can show some of those slides, that'd be wonderful. But yeah, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this mentality that I work through. 3 tracking is what the adaptive sports world calls what I do as a skier. This is my wonderful stunt double going down this really steep ski couloir, as we like to call it, giant walls, sheet of ice, all that kind of wonderful stuff that might scare the crap out of you. But I like to call this version ninja sticking. It's kind of a phrase that I coined, a friend helped coin, that was first developed when I was climbing the Grand Teton in Grand Teton National Park, not too far from here. And I was on this ledge about the size of the width of this chair, really, actually. And I was just walking with my crutches. I wish I actually had tethers on my crutches in case I let one go, because it was like a 2,000-foot drop right next to me, and I was like, oh my God, if I drop this thing, I am so screwed. But he was watching me do this, and he's like, dude, you are like ninja sticking up here with those black sticks. Like, what are you doing? And he was mind blown. I was just doing my thing. I was like a 23-year-old naive human, just like, woo, floating around in the mountains. And he coined this term, and then I kind of used that to create this mentality in my life around ninja sticking, providing a more levity, comical, relatable term towards medical equipment. Sometimes that has such a poor stigma to it. So that's kind of the idea around this mentality that I try to live by as much as possible. We can go on to the next one as well. Did you have anything to say on that? I know you wanted to like learn a little bit more about the ninja sticking stuff.
Oh, you have a certain phrase you use, and I'm curious if you can let these guys know what that phrase is.
Yeah, so this is the one right here. So ninja sticking, if you look up hashtag ninja sticking, you'll see a lot of stuff that I do, but then also other amputees, other people with crutches, forearm crutches, whatever, have been starting to use it a little bit. It's just kind of how we float around in the outdoors with our crutches. It's kind of difficult to use crutches sometimes, so we don't see too many out there, but it's really cool to see that. And then the second part is this centering intersectionality in the outdoors. Intersectionality is this like big, fluffy term, but it kind of incorporates my understanding of me being South Asian American, Indian American, and also disabled. So this combination of these two very diverse groups into the outdoor space, and how that shows up for me and how I can show up for other people that come from different minorities, different genders, different races, different disabilities in the outdoors, and how I can make space for them and provide that, help them provide that representation that they might not be seeing in the outdoor space, because sometimes, mainstream media has a hard time around disability, and I'm just trying to break through those barriers, as you all like to call it, to make sure that our voices and our stories are being heard the ways that we want them to be told. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, Vasu. Yeah. And are there other organizations or other sports that have used this message to kind of, usher people in?
Yeah, so when I was starting out as an athlete, I was working at Vermont Adaptive in Vermont for obvious reasons. That's where I started developing as an athlete. I was interning there, so kind of like how you developed at No Barriers and many other folks in this room are developing at No Barriers, I was developing this mindset around adaptive sports at Vermont Adaptive. From there, I moved to Bozeman, Montana, if anyone knows where that is. Small little town up north, just far enough, I like to say. And I started working at a place called Eagle Mount Bozeman, and I was their adaptive sports director, so working with all kinds of disabilities, from cognitive to mental to physical to all the overlapping. And that developed this, again, understanding of what disability really means, expanding away from just being an amputee, expanding towards wheelchair users, other things like that, and how we can break down those stigmas again to develop a better sense of our stories.
Very cool. And speaking of stories, you had lost your leg as a child. How long did it take you as an above-the-knee amputee to kind of discover adventure sports and really kind of find your roots in that?
Yeah, so I lost my leg when I was 9 months old from septicemia. It's a blood infection, and gratefully they figured it out before it spread to my heart, because it's a blood vein infection. So grateful to be up here. Anyone that's gone through near-death experiences, I think I've realized, like, I got nothing else to lose, so I'm just going to go for it kind of thing. And slowly develop this idea of what works for me. This picture I love because it showcases, there you go. Showcases, like, all the different needs our communities have, whether you're tall, short, kid, in a wheelchair. We all use different kinds of aspects, and I was slowly developing that as a kid through, I wouldn't say alone, this is the big thing here too, is I had a big community backing me up as well, my parents, my older brother, a lot of tough love. I know the veteran community loves their tough love. every time I fell down, my brother would tell me to get up and just like walk away. I loved it.
As a good rope team does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in the moment, I hated him, of course, older brother syndrome, but afterwards developed into really loving him for building that muscle for me, helping me build that muscle, and I definitely bring that aspect to the mountains as well. So yeah, that's a big one for me.
Yeah, very cool.
We can go on to that next slide as well. Thank you. So, as an athlete, on the right is a photo from a project, a massive project I did with North Face. I skied Mount Moran, which I'll talk about a little later. And then on the left, actually, to add to the right photo, or sorry, left photo, for right photo for you all, is I signed with North Face in 2018 as their first adaptive athlete. It's kind of like a bittersweet first because I'm like, okay, there's room to grow in this industry as adaptive athletes, showcasing what we can do in the mountains, what we can do beyond so many of these other sports that are highlighted. So I really am grateful to be able to have that opportunity. And then on the left, I believe it was 2019, I was able to join the U.S. amputee soccer team as well, and this year we are competing in Istanbul, Turkey at the World Cups, which is going to be really amazing and a great opportunity to showcase again. Ninja sticking, yeah. Form of ninja sticking. So if anyone is interested, we're always recruiting amputees to play soccer with us. So yeah, and then as we move forward with this slide, I love photos. With me in the mountains specifically, we can go back to that. I had to develop this technique pretty much to be able to climb these mountains. More photos will be coming, but as I was developing as a kid, as a young adult, I was getting better and better at skiing with what are called outriggers, crutches like these with little skis on the bottom if folks have not heard of those. But as I was in college, we developed this snowshoe basket on the right side. You can see the orange strap on it that I put on the bottom of my outriggers and then make these really weird tracks in the snow to ski uphill. And that's another concept of ninja sticking that I like to bring to the table.
Yeah, which is insane. I don't. If anybody out there, are there any ski tours in the crowd? Is anybody uphill ski out there? So there's like a handful of people that realize how absolutely insane it is to 3-track skin up. And
yeah.
For those of you that don't, it is. I am just not quite sure how it happens.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, like, people see videos and photos of me, and they're like, oh, that looks hard, and then they go out with me ski touring, and they're like, Vasu, what are you doing? Like, why are you out here? Kind of thing. But I'm like, I'm not that far behind. I go at my own pace, and that's what I always tell people, just like, find your pace, push it a little bit over and over and over again, rest less, maybe, take 3 breaks instead of 4 next time or something like that. But I go at my own pace. If they want to wait in the cold for me at the summit, so be it. If they want to hang out with me at my pace, great. I'm at that mentality now, so I really love that part.
Yeah, totally. And I'm sure, like, the first time you went out uphilling, it wasn't all like glitter and gemstones. Can you tell us about a time where you encountered a challenge that just like really, really discouraged you, and how you might have navigated that?
So, I usually have a really hard time getting discouraged nowadays, which is really nice. I built that muscle over the years. When I was learning how to ski, I was teaching myself everything. I didn't use an adaptive sports organization to teach me how to ski, even though there were plenty out there. I was kind of a stubborn little shit, sorry. So I was just skiing out there with my older brother, who, again, would see me fall and be like, dude, you can get up. What are you doing? Like, stop crying. Like, just get up. If you really need me, I can help you, but like, I'm just gonna go snowboard away from you so you don't have any access to any kind of help like that. So he would do that. I would take 2 turns, fall over, get discouraged, start crying. I was like 10 maybe, so 10-year-olds still cry, right? I think, maybe?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone cries, but and then I'd take 3 turns and fall over, and then I'm like, oh God, that was frustrating. Get back up, 4 turns, fall over, and then still have like a blast because I was still out there just enjoying myself and moving around, because I think mobility is a way of creating joy in our lives. So yeah, that some of those experiences learning how to ski was so frustrating. Some of those powder days, I'm just like getting stuck and losing a ski, hiking up, trying to dig for hours to get my ski, because otherwise I'm like, do I like walk down to this like ski lodge? Like, I don't know actually how to go back home. So yeah, those are some brutal times for sure.
Yeah, so that's a lot of practice at overcoming adversity.
Yeah, for sure. And then utilizing those resilient moments, adverse moments, to build that resiliency into the mountains as well, was a big thing. And again, being able to communicate what I need in the mountains. It's a little bit different, of course, for all of us. But in those moments, like, definitely am open to being like, hey, I just need to slow down. Hey, I just need a water break. Because it is, as you said, like, very difficult to go uphill on a mountain. So yeah, all those little things that come into play moving in the mountains for sure.
Very cool. That really makes me want to hear about Mount Moran.
Yeah. So I think some of the next photos. So yeah, there you go. If you click it, there might be some numbers, but we might not be able to see them. But so this is Mount Moran. It's in the Grand Tetons. If you've ever driven by it, it's this ginormous rock pile. It's 6,000 feet around at the bottom and 12,000 plus feet. So it's a 6,000 foot boot pack. If anyone doesn't know what a boot pack is, it's pretty much like a hellish Stairmaster.
In ski boots.
In ski boots and heavy backpacks. So that was a 6,000 foot climb up with outriggers, with crutches, with a backpack. I do this all pretty much, on my own will with a team for safety as well. So yeah, Mount Moran, this project was an amazing one. It was a huge global marketing campaign for North Face, which I really am very grateful for their sponsorship. Billboards, massive, publications, all that stuff. Really cool to showcase, again, disability in that mainstream light, especially in the outdoor realm. So yeah, that was, I would say, hellish in the moment, but afterwards, like, this type 2 fun for sure.
You guys all know the difference between type 1 and type 2 fun? Does anybody not? Cool. So type 1 fun is when you're out there, if we relate it to skiing, so it's lift to access skiing on like a beautiful 8-inch powder day where you're just kind of joyfully skiing down. There's no frowns, there's no bad sweat, it's just all fun. And type 2 fun is where you're a little bit miserable when you're doing it.
Yeah, it's more the story afterwards that's the fun part.
Yeah. And then there's type 3 fun, which is just awful all around.
Yeah.
All it is a good story at the bar.
Yeah, I think Denali was actually type 3 fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here is a kind of a on-mountain photo right at sunrise, around 6 a.m. The thing about climbing these mountains, you want to start really, really early at around 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. So one, you're already lack of sleep. Two, your GI tract is probably all screwed up because I don't know about you all, but my body's thoroughly on a schedule in the morning. And then 3, it's also just cold and miserable. So I'm trying to sell you on backcountry skiing. I don't know if I'm doing a really good job though.
It's great.
I swear it's fun. Look, this is the fun part right here, actually. Being able to look down this and know that, through years and years of training, years and years of community, as Billy said, I stand on the shoulders of giants. I stand on people that have come before me, and supported me, like my parents, like my brother, to be able to help me be where I'm at today, in this point as well. And I know that embodying that in that moment, because that is very scary. Like, if I'm standing, the slope is like directly right next to me. So pretty steep, super scary, but fully capable of doing it. And thoroughly enjoyable. This time around, it was a sheet of ice. Terrifying, but still fun, I swear.
So what happens if you lose an edge or you go down?
So in those photos prior, you all might be able to see the ice picks coming off of my outriggers a little bit. I call those the whippet attachments. So there's a little ice axe that comes off right here, which I developed as well. I love having an engineering degree sometimes.
Yeah. A true pioneer.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so the idea of a whippet is if I drop my elbow into the snow, it's called self-arresting, can stop myself from barreling down the hill to my death. So that's the nice part.
Good invention.
Yeah, it's a great invention. I love it. it is kind of scary to have it right at hip level. So, can either stab myself or fall to my death. I don't know, like, you know, quite little balancing act there, for sure, so.
Very cool. Do we have Denali?
Yeah, so, okay, so to put into context, all of this was done last year. All three of these mountains that I talk about were done last year in a span of 1 year, so it was quite a massive year for me as an athlete. But the biggest thing I was able to do with my close friend Pete McAfee, who's also another adaptive athlete with one leg, was to put down the first disabled ski descent of Denali, which is the tallest mountain in North America. It's about 2,000 or 20,000 feet. It's the tallest, it's one of the 7 summits of the world. So we were very, very proud of that moment as disabled athletes to showcase again that pinnacle of what we as disabled athletes can achieve when we're provided access to so many resources like community, like mentorship, like are these rope teams. So yeah, that was an amazing, amazing opportunity. I think definitely has put me on the map as an athlete as well. So really amazing. That previous photo I just loved because it's like this amazing like black and white imagery that the professional photographer took that was with us. This landscape is ginormous. I don't know how to explain it. Like those rocks are like the size of like Empire State Building kind of thing. They're just like, I don't even know how to describe being in that space because it's just such a different world. It's like being on the moon or on Mars or any of these places. If anyone has a chance to get on Talkeetna Air Taxi up in Alaska, highly recommend it. You'll just fly around and go through all these amazing spots, and you're like, I was just like mind blown just flying in.
How many days did it take you guys to get to the top?
It took us about 15 days to climb up. And you can kind of see in this photo, this is me right on what is called the West Buttress, this knife edge ridge. You can see the rope attached to me. And at the bottom of this massive, like 3,000 or so foot ridge, there's a camp that's 14 camp. And those ginormous crevasses in the background are like, can fit a like 8-story building. Those things are huge. And then we can't quite see the mountain because of the captions, but the mountain in the back is a 17,000 foot mountain right above the clouds. This photo kind of looks photoshopped, but I swear it is not. So this is at 16,000 feet. Sadly, and maybe not sadly, I don't know. When we summited, it was a blizzard, negative 20 degrees, almost lost my toes. It was a whole debacle. I don't know if I would experience that again, but after I got off the mountain, I think I want to go back. So,
Type 2?
Type 2, almost type 3, almost lost my foot to another infection. I was like, oh my God, why did I do this to myself? So, yeah, and then the last mountain we climbed. Did you have anything else to add to that Denali stuff?
No, that was impressive enough. I do believe, and any mountaineers out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe from base to summit, Denali is actually taller than Everest.
Correct.
Yeah, it's just not quite as high in altitude, but it's an insane mountain.
People do say Denali is one of the harder 7 summits because it's so far up north that the oxygen is less on the poles. So Mount Vinson in Antarctica and Denali are kind of one of the more difficult ones because there's less oxygen on the poles itself. And the thing about Denali is you don't have porters. Mm-hmm. Our team of 6, this is 5, the photographer was the one taking this photo, so 6. Usually, typically, a team of 6 take up 100 pounds each of food, fuel. You have to poop in a bucket the entire time. Clothing. I wish I brought more socks. I could like snap mine in half. It was disgusting. We all had this wonderful collective smell that happened after 17 days of being on the mountain together. I don't know if you've been around smelly guys before, but it's a good stank for sure. But yeah, it is a, what was I saying? It was the 6 of us brought up 1,000 pounds total. So of camera gear, batteries, solar panels, food, everything we needed for a month we brought up there. And it was just so much weight compared to all the other teams. There's not many films that are made on Denali. Mm-hmm. For a reason. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a career right now of again just like pushing past unpleasantries and driving forward. What would your one piece of advice for folks be to really like reach and drive for what you want?
The biggest thing I always do is just lean on the people close to me, not in a way that's like codependent or I need you. More so like, hey, like if we support each other, we can do these monumental things. Mm-hmm. Denali just being a metaphor, Mount Moran just being a metaphor, Cotopaxi, which was those photos with the bigger team that you all saw, just being these metaphors of like, when we support each other, amazing things can happen. So that's my biggest thing, and that's what I try to showcase all the time. That community is the center of it all.
Yeah, definitely. That's very cool. I'm honestly, I'm blown away by your story, by your photos. I work in adaptive skiing, and to hear stories like this, it is like so far from what the average that you would expect is that it's like I'm having a hard time comprehending it.
Yeah, I know. It's like we'll just have to go ski touring, huh? Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah, Vasu, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, pretty much is like I always seek out the next, not big thing, but just the next achievement or next goal to keep me focused. So I think that's one of your guys's, what are these called again? This is one of my first No Barrier summits.
Yeah,
so
well, welcome. And I think what you're talking about are summits, and summits are the celebration of achieving our goals, and it seems like you've had quite a few celebrations.
Yeah, so try to embody those as much as I can. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And if you want any of these guys to kind of keep up on your journey, what is the best way for them to kind of watch your story? Do you have any preferred social media?
Yeah, I
stories?
mostly use Instagram. I don't know how to use TikTok. I'm not young enough, I realized. But mostly use Instagram, a lot of cool, high-quality photos. Again, just trying to break down what disability, again, means in modern-day society through these intersecting views of race and ability and gender and all that stuff. So if you want to follow me, I'm all up on Instagram as much as possible.
Cool. Well, Vasu, it's been an honor and a privilege to sit up here on stage with you and hear a little bit about your summits, about your story, about your resilience. And you guys should definitely, keep track of Vasu, follow his journeys. It's definitely a pretty amazing thing to see in your day-to-day life. So thank you so much, Vasu, and welcome to the No Barriers community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Yeah. Oh, baby.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll say it one more time, you guys. He's amazing. That's mind-blowing to know what he is capable of. So the next thing I want to introduce to you guys is not a person. It's almost equally as important, though. All these amazing No Barriers programs, all these adventures, all the stories that come out of them, this event itself, they're made possible by donations, by funds, by gifts that are given to this organization that we're able to, recycle and give back to the clients and the participants and the people that come on No Barriers programs. There is a Text to Pledge program that is happening. Can we get the Text to Pledge up on the screen? Bam. So very easy. Nobody can claim they don't have a smartphone anymore. We're beyond that. So you guys can. I can. Damn, there's always one, and he's right up front. Cool. We take cash, sir. You look like you have some cash in those overalls, so we'll take that as well. But the Text to Pledge info, guys, it's on the 2 signs at the exit of this room. It's on stage. Please, please, please consider dropping a coin in the bucket for No Barriers so that these programs can continue. It is greatly appreciated, and I wish that I could really tell stories of how it impacts people. There, again, talk to some folks that have some No Barriers gear on, ask them to hear their story, and put this number in your phone first, because when you're done talking to them, you will want to text the pledge. All right. I have one more introduction to make, and I am so happy to introduce a longtime friend of No Barriers, former board member, absolutely just great stand-up guy in general, Mr. Tom Lillig.
All right. All right, Nate. Let's just enjoy this.
Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts.
Well, thank you, Nate, for that introduction, and I am so happy to be back at a No Barrier Summit. This is definitely one of the biggest highlights of my year. Another highlight that I had earlier this year is I had the pleasure to travel with Command Sergeant Major Gretchen Evans, a former No Barriers participant and a current No Barriers ambassador, when we traveled to the ESPY Awards in Los Angeles, where Gretchen received the Pat Tillman Award for Service. ESPN put together an amazing video that tells a little bit about Gretchen's journey. For those of you that have been around the No Barriers community, you might remember Gretchen or know that Gretchen came to No Barriers when she's in a very dark place in her life. Gretchen learns the elements, put them into practice, and today she is perhaps the best model of the elements elevate that I can think of. The No Barriers element elevate is all about being a leader that serves others in the community. And as you'll see in this video segment, Gretchen's mission now is to find others that are in a dark place and help lift them up. Let's watch that video.
I talked to the troops. I said, we have a decision to make. We can stay right here and try to hold until we get reinforcements, or we can try to make it to the top of the mountain, which would be better terrain for us to defend ourselves. The decision is mine to make, and I decided we were going to try to get to the top of the mountain. The enemy was pursuing us, and we finally got to the top. We decided that was going to be our last stand. And I kept radioing back and said, okay, now I'm at the top of the mountain and they're coming and I'm low on ammo and this is not looking good to me. So we laid down and we took our magazines and we stacked them. And we said, okay, bring it. And then I heard it before I ever saw it, that beautiful sound of a helicopter. Apaches, still makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, flew over us, and fired those missiles into those enemy troops that had been pursuing us and took care of that. And as we're pulling away, I thought to myself, I just spent a lifetime on that mountain. I left 3 men on that mountain. And actually, I left part of myself on that mountain. I went to the pilot and I said to him, thank you for saving us. And he goes, Sergeant Major, we were listening to you all morning on the radio. We were not going to leave you on that mountain. And I just said, thank you. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that, I really do. And he goes, that's my job. That's what I do.
Gretchen Evans' courage and leadership was tested that day in Afghanistan. And yet, there would be many more difficult days ahead. 6 months after that mission, she found herself in harm's way again. As she commanded her troops to take cover, a mortar blast threw her against a bunker head first. She'd survive, but be placed in a medically induced coma.
On the day that they decided to wake me up, a young Army doctor was standing right next to my bed. I had a dry erase board, and he was writing on it with a marker, and he waved to me like this to get my attention, and he flipped it over, and he wrote the words, "You're deaf." And so I took the board from him and I whacked it off with my hand. I wrote the word forever and showed it to him, and he nodded his head.
Her 27-year military career, spanning her entire adult life, was over. Diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury and severe PTSD along with her deafness, her re-entry into the civilian world became an all-too-familiar veteran's tale.
And all of a sudden, I had to shift into a world that I didn't understand and had not been a part of. I felt worthless because I didn't think I could contribute anything to life anymore, and I wanted to die. The way I was dealing with the grief was I ran and I ran and I ran to obsession. I was running 12, 13, 14 miles a day. I wasn't eating. I was trying to disappear.
One day out on the road, Gretchen was struck and nearly killed by a cyclist she couldn't hear coming.
He threw me into traffic. I still remember smelling that burned rubber. One of my doctors looked me right in the face and he said to me, "Gretchen, you can't do the things you used to do anymore. You've changed." And I felt like this door was closing, and if I didn't stick my foot in this closing door, I was going to lose my life. And I thought, no, I want my life back.
On the brink of giving up hope, Gretchen reached out to an organization called America's Vet Dogs, a group that provides service dogs to veterans living with disabilities.
I wrote an email to them and said, "I have a traumatic brain injury. I'm deaf. I have severe PTSD. Can you help me?" And I hit send. An email pops up. There was one word on that email: yes.
I never held my hand out and asked for something free. I don't need you to lower the bar for me.
I got the coolest set of ears you could ever imagine.
All throughout her recovery, Gretchen relied closely on a support system she thought of as a rope team, a military reference dictating that if one member of a group falls down, the others tied together pick them back up to continue on their journey, all together.
As you go through the highs and the lows of your life, everybody should have a rope team. You almost can't survive without one.
So with the help of new friends and old, Gretchen began her road back. She found a number of veterans organizations and soon began doing what she'd always done best: lead.
I felt like a sergeant major all over again. I just didn't wear the same uniform. I wore this, but I was still helping people be successful in their life.
In the years since, Gretchen has become a face of the veterans advocacy movement. She repurposed her passion, running, competing in more than 30 marathons and forming Team Unbroken, a group of veteran and civilian athletes with disabilities who take part in adventure races all over the world.
To cement who we are as a team and that we're not quitters.
I'm broken and it's beautiful. I'm broken and it's beautiful. I'm broken and it's beautiful. Yes!
They've raised tens of thousands of dollars for veterans organizations and have tied themselves together as a new rope team. Wounded, perhaps, but very much unbroken.
Bye, guys. Do hard things. Learn what grit can do for you, because it's a feeling deep down inside of here when you think you've taken your last step that you still can take 10 more. And once you do that, it can propel you so far.
I'm broken and it's beautiful. I'm broken and it's beautiful.
Obviously, No Barriers is one of those organizations that Gretchen is supporting. She'll be at the Asheville Golf Classic. She'll be leading a team of veterans in North Carolina in September. And she couldn't be here tonight, but she wanted to make sure to leave a special message for all of us at the summit.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Evans, and a No Barriers ambassador and alumni. And I just want to welcome you to the 2022 No Barriers Summit here at Estes Park in Colorado. You're in for the time of your life. As you spend this next 4 days experiencing the summit, I want you to look around to the people to your left and your right, because during this 4 days, you're going to be building a rope team. You're going to be doing things that you've never done before, and so are the other people with you. And this is the ultimate experience, or where you can learn to rely on other people to put on your team to reach the success that you want to have. So I encourage you to try everything, at least one, to look for people who are going to be in your life for the next couple of years or forever. And this is the place where you're going to meet those people. Have a great time at the No Barriers 2022 Summit.
So after that first video played at the auditorium in Los Angeles, Gretchen got up on the stage and she gave the speech of her life, and she decided to end it with a distinctly No Barriers message. After the speech, she came off, and backstage there were these star athletes, Steph Curry, one of them, who were basically stumbling over each other to shake her hand, to thank her for her service, and to make sure that they let her know that she made an impact through her words. Let's take a listen.
To anyone listening tonight who is in a dark place, I ask you to look and find that flickering light that's inside of you. Whether you're a star athlete, a wounded veteran, facing shattered bones, or a crushed spirit, embrace your struggle for what it is, but know that you do not have to do this by yourself. Find your rope team, those trusted friends that will never let you down, whether they be two-legged or four-legged. Let go of that burden and hold on to the rope with them. Alone, we might want to give up, but together we are unafraid, we are unstoppable and unbroken, and we will banish loneliness, combat hopelessness, and bring the light to the darkness in each other's lives, because what is within us is stronger than anything in our way. Thank you so much.
Well, Gretchen is certainly a powerhouse, and I'm going to transition because it's time to introduce another powerhouse of this No Barriers organization. I'd like to introduce former executive director, current board president, my co-author of What's Within You, Mr. David Cherna.
Great to be here, Tom. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great to share the stage. I don't think we've done this at a summit
years.
ever.
20 years of summits.
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Finally, we're together, right? Well, when I think about Dave, he really is the ultimate rope team person for me. I mean, he's been forever on my rope team with No Barriers, but even before that, he's been there with me through thick and thin. But it has been a rope team that has grown stronger and tighter through a series of time-tested trials, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Remember that time when we were in college and you were working that stint at the zoo, and you invited me to visit? Yeah. Well, Dave is working at the zoo, and he invites me into this enclosure, and then he disappears. He's gone, right? He's totally gone. And he comes back with, do you remember what he came back with?
Yeah, a cheetah.
Yeah, he comes back with a full-grown cheetah. Now, keep in mind, at that time, I was somebody that was afraid of just about any animal larger than a microwave oven. And he comes back with a giant cheetah.
Yeah, and I knew
this
Tom,
guy.
I always like to challenge Tom in many different ways, and I wanted him to come to appreciate animals in a new way.
Yeah, well, this animal, this cheetah, sits down next to me, and Dave says, Tom, now I want you to pet the cheetah. And I'm like, my shaking hand is here, and he's literally pulling me over to pet the cheetah. And then what do you say?
I said, well, why don't you just, the cheetah's going to open its mouth.
Yes.
I would like you to touch the cheetah's tongue.
So Dave starts caressing the face of the cheetah, and the cheetah opens its mouth wide, and he takes my shaking hand and sticks it inside the mouth of the cheetah. But then all of a sudden, the cheetah starts slapping its tail on the ground wildly. And Dave says,
Let's slowly remove your hand. This is a sign of aggression. Let's start to move that hand out of the cheetah's mouth.
that's right. And I am happy to report that that hand emerged, 5 fingers all intact, and a newfound trust in Dave. Now, a rope team is something that it's built stronger and tighter through all sorts of trials. And about 15 years after the cheetah experience, and one house cat later, I was on a business trip, and I got the call that nobody wants to get. My mother had had a massive stroke, and I flew home on the next flight possible. And as I rushed to the hospital, I walked into the rope, and my legs crumbled beneath me, and I just kneeled at her side. This woman had been the brightest light in my life. She had been my rope team since day one, helping push me through to achieve when I thought that I couldn't. And now she was gone. And I felt uneasy and under a dark cloud. Dave flew out immediately and spent the toughest week of my life supporting me through that.
And after that experience together, that shared experience, I went home. My wife and I were expecting our second child. We were really excited to grow our family. We went into the 5-month checkup for the baby, and the doctor did an ultrasound and said to us that she couldn't hear a heartbeat and that we had lost our child. 5 months in, that means you still have to deliver the child, which is about 24 hours later. One of the most traumatic things that I've ever experienced in my life. And it brought me to a very dark place for many months that was hard to get out of.
Now, Dave and I have spent hundreds of hours, maybe even thousands, teaching the concepts of no barriers, teaching what it means to be a rope team. But now, we were smack in the middle of it. Sometimes when you teach a framework, like how do you navigate your way through the life elements of no barriers, can be so esoteric until adversity smacks you right in the face and brings you literally and figuratively to your knees. We decided that we were going to practice what we preach. We decided that we were going to lean into each other, get away from our jobs, get away from our families for a few days, and try to connect. We told stories, we went hiking, we learned that we could laugh again. You know, the activities may have been simple and ordinary, but the healing was profound and allowed us to keep moving forward with our rope getting only stronger and tighter.
And after that experience, we came back to our No Barriers community, really changed, having had to live it ourselves in a way that we'd never done before. And it was around that same time that we ran into a No Barriers ambassador. She wasn't an ambassador at the time. And her name is Mandy Harvey. Many of you in the room know Mandy. She's been a performer at Summit. She sang that song at the beginning of tonight's ceremony. If you're new to the No Barriers community, she was singing the song. Well, Mandy is an extraordinary member of the No Barriers rope team. But back when she was in college, she was studying to be a music teacher. Her passion was music. She always knew she wanted to be a music teacher. And when she got into Colorado State University's music program, she felt like finally she was going to fulfill this dream of becoming a music teacher. As she went to her first set of classes, she was having the time of her life, feeling like her dreams were finally coming to fruition. A couple months into the program, though, she realized she couldn't hear the teacher speaking at the front of the classroom. So she went and she sat a little closer. Over a course of just a couple of weeks, she had to sit closer and closer, and she realized something serious was going on. And she went to the doctor, where she discovered that she had a disease that was causing the muscle tissue in her ears to deteriorate. And shortly thereafter, she went completely deaf. She dropped out of the music program, devastated, feeling for the first time that her dream was not going to become possible. And she lost all hope.
At No Barriers, we hear these stories of people in the darkness all of the time. Veterans facing suicide, kids dealing with depression, people with disabilities, facing all sorts of challenges. And you might think from the outside looking in that this might be heartbreaking work, but that couldn't be further from the truth, because what we have seen time and time again is when people are at the end of their rope, when they're under this cloud of darkness that won't seem to lift, something is still there. Something remains. And when you learn to harness optimism and use it to propel you forward, even in the darkness of times, we call that alchemy. Alchemy, as Nate told us before, comes from the Middle Ages, when people would try to transmute metal, turn lead into gold. I also sometimes like to think of alchemy like the Japanese art form of kintsugi. When pottery was broken, the Japanese artists would put the pieces back together, not with glue, but with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, they would highlight them for all to see and celebrate.
And so going back to the story of Mandy, she's broken, completely broken, hopeless. She goes back to her family, and her dad says to her, let's sing a song together. And Mandy says, how can I sing a song? I can't even hear my own voice. He says, let's just give it a try. And she starts to sing the song. She notices tears coming down her father's face. And she thinks those tears are because she must be horrible, that her voice must be terrible. But her father signs to her and says, no, you have perfect pitch. You haven't lost your ability to sing. And in that moment, Mandy suddenly transformed these broken pieces that had been forming in her mind and said, well, maybe there is hope. She started to sing more and more and learn how to use her vocal cords and feel her vocal cords so that she could have perfect pitch. She got the courage up to go and perform at a local bistro. They asked her back. She performed more and more, and at one of those performances, a scout from America's Got Talent was there watching her and invited her to perform on America's Got Talent. Now, this was not something she was seeking out. She was terrified to go and do it, but she decided to try. And in fact, the very first song that she sang on America's Got Talent was a song that she wrote for No Barriers called Try. So I want to show you how that went.
I don't feel the way I used to. The sky is gray, much more than it is blue. But I know one day I'll get through, and I'll take my place again if I would try. If I would try. There is no one for me to blame, 'cause I know the only thing in my way is me. I don't live the way I want to. That whole picture never came into view. But I'm tired of getting
need a translator for this.
Before we go on, I just have to know, that was Sarah that was there too. So Sarah was there not just that night, but every night with Mandy. Certainly a part of Mandy's rope team and the No Barriers rope team. So thank you, Sarah. I also want to thank Jenny, who is also interpreting for us tonight. So to Sarah and Jenny, to both of you guys. This performance by Mandy has been seen by 500 million people around the world. That's billion with a B. But perhaps what's most remarkable about that is it launched Mandy's recording career as a musical artist. It gave us all an example that we can believe in of someone that harnesses the hope, that believes in the possibility, and shows us all how to live a no barriers life. Even though she lost her hearing, Mandy Harvey found her voice, and the world found a golden buzzer superhero we can all believe in.
Now, I wish that whenever you accomplish those things that you never thought were possible, there was a golden buzzer like behind the scenes that someone else was hitting and cheering you on, and ticker tape was coming down when you did these extraordinary things, when we all do these extraordinary things. But that's not quite possible. Here in our No Barriers community, we have something that we like to think of in a similar way, that is to celebrate those things that you accomplish that you never thought possible. Tom, do you want to tell them about our No Barriers flag?
Our No Barriers flag. You will find a No Barriers flag underneath each of your chairs tonight. This is a very powerful symbol. And like all powerful things, this comes with its specific warning label. But we're No Barriers, so our warning label takes on a slightly different tone. It says, warning, do not handle with care. This is not a fragile item. It is strong as your will and commitment. For anyone seeking to accomplish goals that others may have thought were impossible, outrageous, audacious, ridiculous, worthless, or a flat-out waste of time and or silly, bring this along for the journey. When you arrive at your summit, fly your flag, relish your triumph, and have someone snap a picture. This is our flag, people, and each of you should clip it to your backpacks. Write a message on it. Put it on your wall. Let it fuel you not just this weekend, but throughout the next year. But whatever you do, rip it out of its bag and make it a part of your life.
Symbols are really important, and when you accomplish that great thing, post it somewhere that's meaningful to you. I remember one of our vets sharing a story that in a recent Colorado wildfire that was about to destroy her community, she ran desperately into her house to grab her flag, which was one of 5 things she had time to take, but it meant so much to her that she needed that flag. So I hope you fly at some point in your life and celebrate your own triumph. What Tom and I know from 20 years of doing this work, from working with tens of thousands of people, from writing a best-selling book about the philosophy that we teach that's called What's Within You, Your Roadmap to Living Life with No Barriers, we know that our barriers are things that unite us. We all have them. Every single one of us has barriers in our lives. And if at some point this weekend, something about this philosophy resonates with you, I challenge you to take the full No Barriers journey and go through all of the principles that we teach so that you too can unleash your full potential. And what we know is that once you make that commitment to going on this journey, that you are going to discover something that we describe as a light. You heard Billy describe it as a light. You heard others talk about this light. It is a light inside of us that transcends any one trial, tribulation, or goal attained. It's the light that got Billy Lister to become a Paralympian, Sam Morris to develop his Zen warrior training, Mandy Harvey to win the Golden Buzzer. It's the light that helped Tom and I, two average guys, get through some of the darkest moments in our lives. That light and the knowledge that it always exists inside of you will be the fuel that will propel you through your most challenging times and help you to discover that what's within you is stronger than what's in your way. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great summit.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Dave, for honestly being a huge part of the reason why we're all sitting in this room right now. I have a few housekeeping things to wrap up on you guys, and then we'll be finishing up for the night. The first thing that I'd like to mention is that there is an app. There's an app for everything, and there is indeed an app for the No Barriers Summit. Can anybody tell? I'm looking at my screen. What is the app called? No Barriers. Great. It's the No Barriers app. Look for it on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. But do that while you are connected to the wonderful free Wi-Fi here at the YMCA, because you guys have probably figured out the cell phone service is questionable at best. So please, please, please get on that Wi-Fi. We want to stay communicated to everybody. If you are splitting up your groups, please have a time to meet. Do not rely on cell phone service to be able to link back up with your people. Please plan ahead. Tomorrow's schedule. Tomorrow morning, we'll see you right here for a continental breakfast from 7:30 to 8:45. This is also the same place you'll pick up your boxed lunch to take with you into the field for your adventures. For morning and afternoon activities, you must be signed up for an activity to participate. To do this, download the app. Select your activity. If you do not have a device, sir, in the overalls, if you need help, I got you. Perfect. If you need help, go to the table in the lobby, and a No Barriers staff member can help you out getting signed up for that. If you have any questions tomorrow morning or throughout the day or throughout the entire weekend, look for volunteers wearing an orange vest. Our volunteers have orange vests. I promise you, they know the answer to every single question about life or the summit that you have, so ask them anything. They'll know. Or you can stop by the info tables right outside the front door. To get around, we have shuttles. So there are 4 white shuttle vans that will be making a loop between the upper parking lot and the Boone Mountain Center during activity hours. Look for the orange flags and shuttle signs to catch a ride. Each shuttle has a wheelchair lift. If you're traveling on foot, give yourself plenty of time to get to the allotted events. This campus is huge. All the buildings look exactly the same. And it's always better to be early than late. We have placed signs throughout the property to guide you guys around. These signs will point you in the right direction of the buildings where the summit events happen. There's a map in your program book to reference where the buildings are. Again, please give yourself extra time to get to where you need to be and help anybody else that you see that might be struggling. And, always remember, orange vests, volunteers, they can help you out. For dinner tomorrow, dinner is on your own at the Aspen Dining Hall. I think I saw a lot of you guys down there. It's right around here, across the porch, down the stairs of the parking lot. That is the Aspen Dining Hall. If you are staying with us here at the YMCA, you would have gotten a meal ticket that you have to show to the folks downstairs to get your dinner. Tomorrow evening's community event. We'll have movies, music, and it'll be right back here at this stage. We'll watch inspiring films, we'll hear great jams, and we'll do a little dancing. That wraps up the housekeeping logistics for tonight. I can't wait for you guys to get out there tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Push past those barriers and enjoy this beautiful place with these beautiful people. Have a lovely night.
I hope tomorrow gets here quickly, 'cause I can't wait. I know the future's gonna be brighter, but it's dark today. Even when I struggle just to keep my head